might want to have a chat behind my chair. The member for Port Adelaide.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Yesterday, in response to a question about the 7 power stations that have closed under this government, the Prime Minister boasted about an extra 2,900 megawatts of gas-powered generation coming online over the last decade. Can the Prime Minister confirm that every single megawatt of this gas generation came online under the previous Labor government? Does the Prime Minister take any responsibility at all for the investment strike in dispatchable energy that has occurred since this government came to power?
The Prime Minister has the floor.
If my recollection is correct, I was quoting from a letter from the Australian Energy Market Operator. So, but I'll ask the Minister to elaborate on that.
The Minister for Energy and the Environment.
I can confirm to the House it was through the actions of this Prime Minister that we have now seen Pelican Point in South Australia, a gas-fired power station about to come on, Mr. Speaker. And as a result of the actions of the coalition, as a result of the Prime Minister sitting down with the gas suppliers, and as a result, ENGIE, the owner of Pelican Point, a 240-megawatt power station, was able to get a contract with Origin, Mr. Speaker. And what about Swanbank E in Queensland, Mr. Speaker? What about Swanbank E in Queensland, another gas-fired power station that the Prime Minister is helping to ensure sufficient gas for? And what about the Tamar Valley in Tasmania, Mr. Speaker, the gas-fired power station there? Mr. Speaker, we are seeing on this side of the House actions to ensure sufficient gas is available into the market. But, Mr. Speaker, we have, when the member for Port Adelaide gets up, we just have to remind the House that he thinks a genius of an energy policy is that of his own state of South Australia, Mr. Speaker. That is his own state of South Australia, where we've had a blackout. We've had a statewide blackout. We've had more than $500 million lost in his own electorate of Port Adelaide. Adelaide Brighton is at the book a loss of $13 million, 450 jobs. As a result, they got 36 hours where they lost power. That's in his own electorate. And now the South Australian government thinks that a genius of an energy policy, a green, clean energy policy, is to spend $110 million on diesel generators, Mr. Speaker, that use 80,000 litres an hour, Mr. Speaker, that don't work in the heat, Mr. Speaker. That's the genius of the policy, taking more coal-fired power from Victoria and the Latrobe Valley, spending hundreds of millions of dollars on a gas-fired power station built by the taxpayers of South Australia. That is what South Australian Labor Party delivered in their nearly 16 years in office. If given half a chance, this Leader of the Opposition, aided by the member for Port Adelaide, will deliver blackouts and higher prices across the country.